heirs, joint heirs, those that are coming into the fold, those that are however you come. I just wanted to say greetings to you all this morning from South Florida, from my car cam. Um, right now it is 8 o'clock Eastern time and it is 80 degrees, 80 degrees out here, man. I mean, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning and 80 degrees. So you know today, probably at lunchtime, it's going to get up to about 85. So 8 a.m. Eastern time here in South Florida, 80 degrees already. Just wanted to say greetings to you all. I titled this Elections in the Bible, Elections in the Scriptures. We know that we got a national midterm election coming up November the 6th. That's tomorrow. I'm not here to tell people about elections, to vote, not to vote. But I used to teach on the subject, so I figured I would say something about it and to also bring it into the elections and how the electoral or the process went in the scriptures. Good morning, Mega Old School. Good morning, Kenson. Good morning to you all. Everyone else in the room, good morning. Let me just first explain midterm elections. Midterm elections means the presidential election is every 4 years. It happened in 2016. The next one is going to be in 2020. In between those, like 2018, 2022, they call it the midterm election. The midterm election is as important as, in this man's system, it is as important as the general election, the main election for the presidency, because the president, the American system is set up. There's a checks and balance. So the president can present a law, but that law must be passed by the Senate, and it must be passed by the House of Representatives, and that's something that has and that's something that has to happen. The president can do something what he calls an executive order, and there are certain guidelines in which he or she can do what we call an executive order. Now, the reason why this election is very important because somebody says I have political science in college. I learned a lot. Yes. And I think it's important to understand Mega Old School. I really do. So the reason why the president is out there trying to push it, because if he doesn't have the vote in the Senate or in the House of Representatives to push his agenda, then it makes it very difficult for the president to get his agenda passed. And theoretically, one would want to have their agenda passed by law. Okay, so the president can change the way trade agreement is on a international level. He can change things such as the immigration laws on a national level. He can do those things if he has a team in place that would allow him to pass his agenda. So as a Republican president, he is of no good with his agenda if he does not have a Republican Senate or a Republican Congress. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how this system works. Now, when you look out there, there's a lot going on. America is totally divided now, and it's not a division that is just political, meaning Democrat, Republican, Independent. America is divided racial. The racial tension in America is on an all-time high since the past 20, 30 years. I mean, people are out. People say how they feel. People vocalize it, whether it's on news. However, people are just vocalizing racism to the highest. I always tell people we all came from the sons of Noah on this side of the flood. On this side of the flood, there was only Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives that survived the flood. So therefore, all mankind, regardless of race, creed, or color, everybody comes from Noah. Noah is everybody's grandfather. Everybody. So just wanted to put that out there to you. But yet, because of various reasons, whether it's the color of our skin, whether it's the accent or the geographical area or area that we live in which we live, or whether it's our gender, there becomes a division. Right now, the division happens to be racial tension. Somebody says, hi there, Quiana Stevens. Okay, yeah. Thank you all. Y'all just saying hello to each other there. Now, let me just say elections in the scriptures, okay? Israel, it was always intended for the Most High to lead Israel. Always. That's the way it was. Remember the Ark of the Covenant and the Levitical tribe. There was always the Most High, and the Most High spoke to the children of Israel through Moses. He also spoke to the children of Israel through Joshua. But there came a point in time that Israel wanted to be like the other nations. Israel wanted to vote. Israel wanted to select a king. And this thing displeased the Most High. It really did. Because he knew that what Israel was trying to do, they were trying to be like the other nations. And there was no need for them to be like the other nations. They were set apart. They were sanctified. The word sanctified means to be set apart. So they were God's chosen people. He entered into a covenant agreement with them. Israel's job was to really be a light to the other nations. They were supposed to be a kingdom of priests. And instead of Israel looking at what was on the other side of the fence, Israel was to be obedient to God's covenant agreement, and they were going to be so blessed that people would look their side of the fence and want to be Israel. And that's the way it was supposed to be. Remember, Israel, there was a time when Israel was in so much high favor, in good favor with the Most High. Nations would tremble when Israel would come around, because Israel moved around, and when Israel got to a certain place, certain nations just trembled because they just heard how powerful of a God Israel had. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob parted the Red Sea. So this was something that everybody just trembled just at the God of Israel. The God of Israel was not a God that was wood, stone, or anything else. It was not a God made with hands. It was the supreme ruler of all the earth, creation of all. And what Israel did, they wanted to be like everybody else. And so therefore, this thing displeased God, and they got a king that ended up failing and not being what the Most High desire was. Now, the kings of the earth, the kings of Israel, you'll go in to read about Jeroboam and Rehoboam and how Israel was split to be Judah and Israel, because there was the differences of opinion, and that is a phenomenal story. But God is going to bring those two sticks back together when he comes. Good morning, Tia. How are you? God is going to bring those two sticks back together. When he comes, Israel is going to be one nation. And Israel is going to be under one rulership. We're going to have a king that we don't have to elect. We know who he is. The Son of the Most High is going to return right back to this earth. You don't have to elect him in office. He's going to come and sit on the throne of David right here on earth for 1,000 years. And he's going to give a perfect kingdom to the Father. So this election, now there was another ways that they elected. Now I want to let you know, Israel did do a form of an election or a selection process. One of the things that Israel did, remember, in the book of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, let's go to the book of Acts. Over in the book of Acts, they needed to pick somebody else to sit in the position of Judas, who had betrayed Christ. Remember, there was supposed to be 12 disciples because there's 12 tribes of Israel, okay? And what he did was, these disciples who became apostles, basically, they said, let us select somebody. Now, let's talk about how they selected that person. They had a group of devout men who were Hebrews, who had accepted the Messiah, who had accepted Jesus being the Messiah, the prophet according to Moses, the same prophet that Moses spoke about, who would come in a time. Once they understood, and once individuals, a pool of individuals who knew the scriptures, who was full of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding according to the Spirit of the Most High, they had a pool of individuals. And when they got down to about 2 or 3, I believe it was 3 of them, I gotta go back and look at that. But what they did, they cast lots. And that was a process of making a decision. They cast lots. So they put those individuals, whether it was their names or however they did it, and there's different literature out there that talks about the methodology of casting lot, what method they use, whether somebody said they put their names a basket and they drew it out. There's different forms and ways of casting lot to say which one this is going to be. And that's what they did. And they did come up with an individual who would take on the position of Judas. And this is how things were done. Remember, lots was also cast. How you doing, Will P? Lots was also cast when they had the two, during the Day of Atonement. They had the 2 animals there, and you had to cast lot which one was going to be the scapegoat and which one was going to be presented alive. So that was also things that they did to cast lot. That was the electoral process, or the election process. Now, today we don't do that. We in this society and in the world, there's an election process where the people make that decision, and there's pros and cons with that. People make decisions, and sometimes we don't make the right decision. We make decisions based upon infomercials, and we believe infomercials. Infomercials can say whatever they want to during an election, during an election process. They can say, hey, this candidate is being investigated. And that's not necessarily the case, but they can say it. You can say whatever you want to during an election process. Most cases, some people try to run a fair campaign where they don't do a smear campaign. It's based upon issues. It's based upon policies. It's based upon ideologies. But today, I'm looking at elections across the country, and I'm not seeing that at all. I'm just not. I'm not seeing where an issue or an agenda is the subject. And it's because the new tactic has come. Let's smear the name of that person. Let's make up lies on that person. Let's purport that they're under investigation, that they did a poor job when they were in office before. I mean, you got all kinds of things that's just happening today that just makes you look at this whole process and say, you know what? Just cut the TV off. Just really cut the TV off. I doubt today that people know what issues the candidates are running on. I really doubt. I really doubt that people know what is the Democrat agenda, what is the Republican agenda, what is the conservative agenda. Now, America, I will say, looking at things from a global perspective, America is a society in which people can have an election, someone can get involved, someone can get elected, and they can be sworn into office, and we move on. We move on because we have a checks and balance in place with having a system, being that there's checks and balances between the lawmakers. Like, again, as I said it earlier, the House of Representatives can present a law, but that must be passed by the Senate. And when the Senate looks at it, if they don't like it, they tweak it. And what they do is they modify it and send it back and say, we'll pass it if it has this particular language. We don't want to pass it. We'll pass it, but we want to tweak it a little bit. And then they'll send it back to the House of Representatives, and they go back and forth. And sometimes it can go into what they call a committee that's composed of members from both sides who try to work and come up with a process or language that would be acceptable by both sides before it just continues to go back and forth. And once they have polled the different members, the different senates, and gone to them and sit down with them, and they feel like they have the numbers to pass it, then they'll present it again. Now, once that happens, it has to go to the president. And the president, more than likely, when something has been passed by Congress, and when we mean Congress, that's the House of Representatives and the Senate, when something has been passed by both parties, then what they do is the president signs off on it. God's House says, this thing was meant for Japhet to deal with and resolve among themselves. Voting is an agreement. We should stay away. That's Brother Daniel, Ben Israel. We used to write numbers on stones or sticks to make decisions. Shalom. Brother Dawid Ben Araya Ben Israel. Thank you for coming into the room. And I want to make a comment that Brother Dawid he said voting is agreement and we should stay away. You know, this is how I feel about it. You know, I feel that when it comes to putting a person in position, it's just not my druthers. You know, it's just not something that I like to do because, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't go and try to be a part of this process. And here's my personal reason, because some people can look at it from a different side and maybe become critical about what I'm getting ready to say. And they're going to say, well, listen here, if you don't vote, then you don't have anything to say. Well, here's where I'm at. I put my trust in the Most High. I believe that whoever is going to be there they are going to be whatever the Almighty wants, they're going to have to do. And when you vote in this process or get involved with this process, you get caught up into this process. I think that we need to stay focused on the way things are. It was a disappointment. It was a disappointment when you looked at certain things that President Obama had on his agenda. Okay, so some people might say, well, I'm going to go out and vote because he's a African-American president. I want to go out and vote for this guy. In Florida and in Georgia, they're going to possibly have the first black female governor in Georgia and the first black male governor in Florida. And some people might say, I want to go out and I'm going to go out and vote. And they don't know what the agenda is. Let me just say this. Certain things, like when it comes to property taxes, and I'm going to pay taxes, and they're asking people locally to say, hey, we want to have a bond and we want to vote on this bond, and this is going to be a 5% bond, meaning that your house, there's going to be a 5% per $100,000 value on your house. That's what it comes out to be. So we want you to pay this so we can build a new city hall, so we can build new schools, so we can do this and that. Those issues, if I'm for it, I may go out and vote on an issue and not necessarily a person. So that's my position on it. I will vote on a position, but not necessarily on an individual. Okay, so when you're living in the city, I think that's important to be aware of what's going on. For instance, somebody could say, hey, I live in a homeowner community, a community has a homeowners association. And somebody might say, you know what, they just put in new trees and new plants. I'm just using that for an example. Or they put up a lighting system. And somebody says, you know what, I don't like that lighting system that they put in 2 years ago. Let's put in LEDs. And I don't like those type of trees. Let's take those out and put in new ones. Well, let me just say this. They will have a meeting and they would tell people, here's the meeting and we want you to come and vote whether or not you want to do this or not. Well, let me tell you, that's an issue. I'm going to be right there and I'm going to be voting, and I'm going to voice my opinion whether or not I think that you should put another taxation on me for something that is not necessarily needed. I would rather see something else. Let's put cameras. Let's put a lot of other things that's more beneficial. So issues I get involved in. That's me personally. I get involved with issues. Individuals, I leave that alone. I just leave that alone. That's just me. I leave that alone. I would say when somebody says, as Israel, do we vote? That's what I tell you. I would say we're in a system. We're in captivity. Whether you think you are in captivity or not, you're in captivity. I am waiting. The king that I'm waiting on, the president I'm waiting on, is the president of the Most High. I'm waiting for that king. I'm waiting for that individual to return back to earth. In the book of Acts, when the Messiah went up into a cloud, the angel said, hey, why stand ye here gazing? This same Jesus that you saw go up, this same Messiah is going to come right back. And when he comes, he's going to be sitting on the throne of David in Jerusalem, and he's going to be the king of the earth. That's the individual I'm waiting on. So everybody else, I don't get involved with. I don't really care about. I'm not going to get involved with that, into Trump's tweets, Hillary's hellacious notes and policies. I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm really not. I have a shield around me. There is, let me just say this. When we dwell in the secret place of the Most High God, when we dwell in that place, there's a hedge around Israel as individuals, because he says, in the land where you have been scattered, if you will return to me, I will return to you. That's individual, because we will not be a nation again until the Messiah returns. Okay, we're not going to be a nation. This thing is not going to be put together until the Messiah returns. So tomorrow's election day. I just wanted to speak on the subject. I do watch politics. Somebody says, I believe you are protecting Shirley as my sweet daughter calls you a friend. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you all very much. Wardy P says, same here, Pastor. Meg Old School says, these politicians are already selected, not elected. Yes. Yes. You know, let me just say this, because you just said something. Let me let you all know. There are, okay, I'm back. I don't know what happened, but I am back, okay? I don't know what happened. Am I back? I think I'm back. Yes, I'm back. Okay, all right. That's Shebrew Stewart. I said about 55% of white females voted for, 45%, but he sucked it before they walked. You know, before I got disconnected, I was talking about the corporations. Don't forget, let me say this, and I don't want to, let me just put it in a truthful way. No matter who gets in that office, it has always been the pattern that once a person gets into office, their agenda is persuaded by the powers to be. Now, that's not a conspiracy theory, okay? Trust me. That's not a conspiracy theory. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm telling you what I know. For instance, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, you can say what you want to, okay? But the NRA is the biggest lobbyist in the United States. Now, I'm sure that there are others. Let me just say they're one of the largest lobbyists in the United States of America. In all 50 states, they are one of the biggest lobbyists. And the way the lobbyist works is they will pay somebody to go and speak individually to every congressperson when they want a specific law to be passed in their favor or not to be passed that's opposing to their favor. That's just the way it works. Big corporations do the same thing, okay? So let's get into the reality of how things really work, okay? So it doesn't matter who's in that seat. Somebody says the pharmaceuticals. Thank you very much, Mega Old School. You better believe the pharmaceuticals are going to have their way when it comes to Obamacare or how this healthcare system is going to operate. Believe me on that, okay? So it doesn't matter. People change when they get into office. I have never seen anybody who does not change that gets reelected. Never. In all of American history, never. And if you're too powerful in a position, you will get assassinated. We know that. That happened to John F. Kennedy. They made sure that no Kennedy ever got into office. Okay? So we know how that works. And trust me, that's real, people. That's real. Okay? I'm not telling you something I don't know. I'm telling you something that you can read in the history about. Okay? So that is a real agenda. So I say that what you do is just stick with the Most High. Okay? What's going to happen? I'm not a person to say what's going to happen is going to happen. Like I said, on certain issues, I do get out. On issues, I will get out, and I have voted, whether it's in a local election or whether it's in my homeowners association, whatever it may be, whether it's something to deal with my kids' school, whatever. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to voice my opinion. But when it comes to individuals, there's too many other, there's too many agendas out there that you cannot control. And it's not meant to be controlled, okay? They do the bidding of Babylon. I have heard the president's, yeah, I've heard that too, Tia, that they go against the Illuminati or the Zionist movement and what have you. Let me tell you, it's, I've never seen a person get reelected who does not want to be persuaded. Tia says, I don't vote because our vote is only it's only 2/3 of a vote. Wow. Tomorrow I am going to watch, and I'm going to pay close attention to the election, and let me tell you why. Because in order to understand prophetically what's happening and when things are going to happen, you have to watch politics. You really do. Remember, Daniel says, when you shall see the abomination of the desolation stand in the holy place and operate as if they are the Most High, this is a sign. So I watch world politics. I watch what's happening. I look at people's agenda. It tells you a lot about what's happening prophetically. So pay attention. Pay attention. I want to pay attention tomorrow. And there's going to be a lot going on. And the agendas or the issues that I'm looking to watch is important. You know, it really is. Because I want to know what's happening out there. If you research history, no election official has never done anything for our people. Nothing. 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 I agree with that 100%. Okay. Let me just say, and number one, economically, I found what works better in pushing your agenda, and it's worked on an international level, global level, national level. It has always worked. This is why America does it today. When you impose sanctions on individuals and countries, it seems to be most effective. Okay? The best way I can tell you. Okay? Trust me on this. If all of Israel, spiritual, natural, just said, you know what? We're not going to celebrate Christmas this year. We're not fooling around with that Christmas. We're not going to touch that holiday. And what we're going to do is just keep our money in our pocket. Okay? We're not going for that agenda. Okay? We're not going to support this commerce. People will listen to you. If you decide, because look at what happened with Nike, okay? When Colin Kaepernick, when he was pushing his agenda, the thing that they did to him was they tried to hurt his pocket, okay? They blackballed him from the NFL, okay? And they blackballed him so that everybody else that is in the NFL will realize if you push too hard, you will be blackballed also. This is why he filed a lawsuit, because he's able to prove that out of all of the worst quarterbacks out there, no NFL owner will give me a chance, will give me a contract, irregardless of having the worst quarterbacks out there. And there are some bad ones out there, some bad quarterbacks out there. I don't even know how they even on the field, okay? And let me tell you, this guy can't even get a job. He can't even carry a towel on the sidelines, okay? And the reason why he can't even carry a towel on the sideline is because they blackballed him, okay, to be an example for everybody else, okay? So what else did they do, okay? So now here comes Nike, and they realize, wait a minute, look at who our buyers are. Look at who our market is. Look at who buys our product, okay? So let's do something here. Let's look at that market, which is the market that is the demographic market that is supporting Colin Kaepernick on the issue of taking a stance. Let's support that market. Let's get behind this guy, okay? Now, the moment he did that, what was interesting is, and I'm bringing up a point about whether to vote or whether to impose or make a statement with your dollar, your money. So this is what happened. A lot of people who was against Colin Kaepernick just went out and burned their tennis shoes. They really did. I mean, they went out and burned them, and they put it on video. I happened to look at some of the sneakers, and they look like 20-year-old sneakers, 10-year-old sneakers. I mean, they don't even sell those Nikes in the store anymore. So either they are just trying to purport that they burned their latest pair, because it didn't look like the latest pair to me, okay, at all. Didn't look like that at all. So people will run around and say, okay, Nike, take this. Nike, this is what you want to do. This is what we're going to do to you, okay? And again, if you look at the tennis shoes or the Snickers or the footwear that they was burning, I got news for you. They were not the latest pair. They might have been 5 years old, 10 years old. Now, Ford, I believe it was Ford truck, came right behind, and they did the same thing. You notice ain't nobody set those trucks on fire. No, sir. That's one thing people are not going to do. Nobody went in and said, you know what, I want to trade in my Ford and get me a Chevy. I want to trade in my Ford and get me a Ram. Okay, no, they didn't do that. No. That whole issue died down. After Ford came out with that, I didn't hear, there's nothing else about mainstream boycotting Nike, you know? It's just not. So Mega says it's all propaganda. That's what it all is. It's all hype. And this is why I say people are voting based upon propaganda. You really don't even know what issue you're voting for. You don't even know what those individuals who are running, what issues they are taking a stance on, because this whole election is about smear campaigns. It's about making up stories against individuals. So watch the election. Watch it. I plan to tune in. You know, I try to stick with biblical issues, but this is something that we should watch because it does have a biblical impact on us that we need to watch and be mindful of. So I thought I would bring that up and bring this in. So thank you all for tuning in. I will be doing more car cams later this week. Thank you also those that are helping us getting the Zoom platform off the ground. It is doing very well. This Friday, we're going to be having Bible study using the Zoom format. We're going to be live. If you send me your email, or send me an email with your email address, that's at Bethel, Bethel, House of God, all one word, Bethel, House of God, at gmail.com, and say, send me a notification so that I can be a part of the webinar Zoom platform to be a part of the Bible study this coming Friday night. We're going to be having a great lesson. So when you send that to me, you will get a notification, and you can be a part of our webinar that we're going to be posting live right here on this channel. Thank you all so very much. It's now 82 degrees in South Florida, 8:44 a.m. Eastern Time right here in South Florida. I don't know where you are, what temperature it is, and what you're doing, but thank you for tuning in on this channel. Peace and blessings to all.